Hello and welcome, I'm Rik Glauert, and here's what happened this week. New regulations on how the death penalty is carried out in Taiwan came into force, and they've been drawing criticism from rights groups that say they remove some legal protections for people on death row. A small but significant tweak by the Ministry of Justice that means whilst the extraordinary appeal process, that is effectively a last resort legal challenge to a death sentence, is ongoing, a prisoner can still be executed. Previously, whilst this appeals process was ongoing, an execution could not be carried out. Rights groups here, including the Taiwan Association of Human Rights, saying this is a backsliding in human rights and that the prisoners on death row are at risk and that there is a chance that executions will now be carried out faster and that the chance of miscarriages of justice will increase. The death penalty is a big issue here in Taiwan. It has widespread public support, but this change comes after the Constitutional Court was asked to rule on the death penalty last year, actually limiting crimes that can be punished by death. Since then, Taiwan has held just one execution, the first and only one under the current president, Lai Ching-te. To find out more about capital punishment and Taiwan society, I spoke to Taipei-based lawyer Casey Yang, and I began by asking him whether executions might now rise because of this change.
It might be, but however, this new rule is not going to say the government should execute more people. This new rule is trying to loosen the rule for the government to execute. For example, in the past, this rule put on some limitation for the government cannot execute. However, in the new rule, it take away a little bit limitation. The original rule was that if there was some pending case, such as constitutional appeal or such as another kind of remedy is taking place, that the death penalty cannot be carried out. However, this rule has been removed. So nowadays the government can carry out the execution even if those cases still have some pending in the court.
Given that this change has seen opposition from human rights groups, legal professionals, why do you think the current Taiwan government would want to make this change to the death penalty?
In my opinion, they want to respond to the public opinion because many Taiwanese people in the past criticized that the death penalty for being carried out too slowly. So I think this is a major issue for the government to do this. They want to take out some limitation, so they can easily to carry out the execution. The execution of the death penalty has always been highly political in Taiwan because in Taiwan it is easily stir public emotion. So the politicians like to manipulate this issue in Taiwan, and sometimes the government may also choose to carry out execution when their approval rating are low to please the public. So this issue is always public. It's not merely a legal issue. It's always a political issue in Taiwan.
And why is there so much support for the death penalty in Taiwan?
In my opinion, I think that because Taiwanese people believe the concept of karma and the idea that those who kill others should themselves be killed. I think another reason might be that a sensational media coverage of serious crime, that media always highlight the cruelty of the crimes and the suffering of the victim. So it's very easily to stir public emotion and feel strong anger and a desire for revenge against the offender in the general public.
There are currently 36 prisoners on death row in Taiwan. Rights groups saying they now face an even more uncertain future. They're calling for this law to be suspended so that there can be greater transparency. Klein Wang, Patrick Chen and Rik Glauert in Taipei for TaiwanPlus. A new voluntary registration system has been set up for religious and civic groups travelling to China. The government says it will protect citizens from persecution, but not everyone is sure that it's needed. Leslie Liao reports.
A hostile foreign force. That's how President Lai Ching-te described China in a speech on national security last month. In that same speech, Lai said he wanted to increase transparency for religious groups traveling to China for exchanges.
内政部也应建立宗教团体等公益组织赴中国交流之揭露制度，以防杜中国的干预与统战。
Many temples in Taiwan share close ties with counterparts in China, and they'll often travel for religious exchanges. But religion is tightly controlled by China's ruling Communist Party. With China intent on taking control of Taiwan, Lai's government says it's concerned about the safety of these types of exchanges.
鉴于赴中国旅行的风险越来越高，113年元旦期间，陆委会接获通报之国人赴中失联、遭留置、盘查或关押者合计71人，未通报之数字可能数倍于此。
Just over a month on from Lai's speech, the Interior Ministry now has a system in place. Religious and civic groups can register their travel plans to China on its website. Participation is voluntary for the public, and its creators say users only need to provide the bare minimum of information.
所以我们这个登录专区最主要的目的就是提供，不管是宗教、人民团体或者是公职人员，如果你有留下这些登录的资讯的话，我们就登录，然后必要性的给予揭露，并不涉及各自的部分。
Around 20 groups have already registered on the website since its launch, but the reception has been mixed.
一般的话都是我们会委托旅行社来办理嘛，旅行社办理的话，在过程来说，它就是会合乎政府的一个手续去承办嘛。我们是很单纯宗教的交流而已。每个宫庙每个人的声音又不一样，每个人想法又不一样，到时候真的很乱让它很自然的交流，感觉这样是最好的啦。
Currently, only heads of local government have to register their China travel plans with the government. But the ministry says it's encouraging all elected officials to do so. With this new system, worshippers and civic groups can choose whether to let the government know about their movements in China. But whether it can help protect Taiwanese across the strait remains to be seen. Eason Sun and Leslie Liao for TaiwanPlus.
Dozens of commercial flights were delayed in Taiwan's outlying Penghu Islands this week after a fighter jet experienced a minor malfunction on landing. The issue has triggered a debate on whether Taiwan needs specific runways for military use only. Jaime Ocon explains.
For the second time in a week, an indigenous defense fighter jet, or IDF, suffers a minor crash while attempting to land in the outlying islands of Penghu. The aircraft, the same one involved in both incidents, was carried off shortly after, with the pilot in good condition.
飞行训练降落马公机场时，因轮刹系故障停于跑道，并即实施跑道关闭，人员平安。
Magong Airport in Penghu is a major operating base for Taiwan's military, with dozens of fighter jets stationed there and a group of Marines deployed on the main island. But because of the lack of space, the base's runway is also used for civilian travel. This latest crash, although cleared up quickly, affected more than 24 flights.
关闭总共有3个小时又3分，所以影响的航班有到站12航班离场17航班。
The issue is raising concern about how important infrastructure like runways are in the event of a war. If they're knocked out, Taiwan's fighter jets can't take off or land. Faced with the threat of invasion from China, Taiwan's Air Force would be critical to keeping the country safe from an enemy attack. Due to geography and complex terrain, Taiwan is finding it difficult to find more areas to build air bases and separate its military facilities from civilian use. But it could also prompt Taiwan's Air Force to train more on how to protect and maintain its limited airfields.
但是在澎湖你要建造一个 second runway 不太可能但是还有其他方法，就是类似这种快速的 cleaners， 就是当这个跑道上出现问题的时候，这个 response 要很快，也就是快速的把它移走，那跑道就是进行清理。
Practicing how to clear and repair runways was one element of last year's large-scale Hangguang military drills. But with back-to-back incidents affecting both military and civilian traffic, this may push the military to put more resources into protecting its runways. John Su and Jaime Ocon for TaiwanPlus.
A massive and mysterious discovery off Taiwan's northeastern coast. A complete whale carcass washed ashore on Turtle Island. It was identified by the National Museum of Natural Science last week as a fin whale, the second biggest whale species in the world. To understand just how unique this case is, our reporter Lauren Patmore spoke with one of the world's leading whale experts, Dr. Phil Clapham, a biologist based in the US state of Washington.
So this is the first time a fin whale has been washed up on the beaches of Taiwan. Can you tell us just how rare these whales are?
To my knowledge, this is the first confirmed record of a fin whale in Taiwan. There's not much effort there, sighting effort, so we don't really know what's going on, but historically they're not common. The Japanese, when they occupied Taiwan in World War II, operated a couple of whaling stations on the southern coast, and they were taking probably humpback and sperm whales, I'm not sure, but they did not take any fin whales, which actually speaks to just how rare these animals are in that area historically.
And so if they're not commonly found, can you give us any guesses as to how it ended up in Taiwan's waters?
These animals wander over thousands of miles, and so it's quite likely that fin whales on occasion come through Taiwanese waters. How this particular animal died, and if the length that was reported was correct, it would have been a very young calf, probably only a few weeks old. There's a couple of things that typically are threats to these animals and often are a cause of death. One is entanglement in fishing gear. There doesn't seem to be any evidence, for example, scars from fishing gear on this particular animal from what I've seen of it. The other, which is a bit more likely perhaps, is a strike by a ship.
That was Phil Clapham, a whale expert based in Washington state. Taiwan's got some new seasonal visitors, tiny feathered travelers who've taken a long flight to get here. And Hualien's remote beaches have become the perfect summer getaway for them. Chelsea Wu has the story.
On the northern tip of Taiwan's scenic east coast, some very special summer visitors have landed. These birdies are little terns, tiny migratory birds flying in all the way from Australia and New Zealand. And they've picked an unexpected spot to raise their chicks, this beach.
它那个地方是在一个堤防外面，就是很高的地方，所以一般的人比较进不去，那沙滩车也进不去，所以它的人为干扰会相对的来说，像比利乌溪口来的会更少一点点。
Little terns typically migrate to Taiwan between April and August, but their usual nesting spots along the Hualien riverbanks are becoming less suitable, as fishing, beach cleanup efforts, and stray dogs and cats all disturb their habitats there. Now, the Heping River is a new refuge. And looking to protect their new feathered neighbors, local businesses are forming patrol teams to support tern conservation. The Taiwan Cement Corporation is working with the Wild Bird Society for the first time ever. And their efforts are already showing results. The number of little terns at Heping River is steadily increasing, with around 120 nests recorded.
那因为和平电厂跟和平港的阻隔，非常意外的造就了一个小燕鸥很安全的一个孵育的处所。而志工巡守队的成员，我们更结合了我们场内的这些包商朋友们，一同来参与。
The team hopes to boost the bird's breeding success rate by 10% within 3 years, and aims to promote education on tern conservation in local elementary schools, inspiring the community to continue protecting these tiny travelers. Fu Huahang and Chelsea Wu for TaiwanPlus.
Thanks for joining us here on Here's What Happened. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, catch the first performance of this traditional Japanese dance troupe in Taipei. They're currently on tour in Taiwan. I'm Rik Glauert. Take care and have a great weekend.